Hello, dear listeners. It is I, Mr. Staleman, the deadbeat DJ, streaming my thoughts to anyone willing to watch and listen. Before we get on with the program, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in and hope you continue to support our underground station. Consider liking our stuff, chiming in with your own thoughts, or subscribing to us for more programs in the works. Your support keeps our lights on and keeps my soul tethered to this world. Don't touch that dial, listener. The program is about to begin. Virgo vs. the Zodiac is an absolute gem of a story-driven JRPG. The aesthetic of the enemies and characters are outlandish and vibrant. The gameplay is interactive and impactful with this Mario RPG-styled combat system for timing your maneuvers and avoiding the opponent's attacks, more complex decision-making when considering stuff like parrying and status effects that can affect all enemies, including bosses. The environments are a treat to walk through as well, and the music sits rent-free in my open skull. I can't get enough of the style that drips out of this damn game. But what motivated this video to begin with is its writing, and what its story structure conveys about character convictions and endings. Virgo is a holy warrior looking to bring back the Golden Age, a time before the Zodiacs took control of the Milky Way for the sake of a universal order. I like Virgo's character conviction because it's purposefully two-dimensional, but layered in a complex hierarchy that changes given the circumstances she's faced with. Virgo isn't a blank slate character, and her motivations are clearly expressed in the way she holds herself in conversation with others, and the tone she takes when observing the world around her. She's a revolutionary, but to what ends are ultimately up to the player. She's a zealot with a single-minded devotion towards eliminating heresy. As the story progresses, sympathy forms for her allies, their problems, and eventually, true care is displayed for the citizens which suffer under the regimes of the Zodiac worlds you visit. She's also not an expressly good character. She's snarky and headstrong and rude, but I like that in our main character. I like the fact that this is a change of pace that comes from playing a character that isn't archetypically good in an RPG. Her personality is in stark contrast with the world that she lives in as well. The humor is offbeat without leaning into the overly obnoxious, and Virgo plays the no-nonsense straight man in most instances, holding to this attitude when confronted with bizarre and absurd situations. There are even some bizarre notions she holds to as well that are played for laughs. Like any good story-driven RPG, you're presented with some choices that affect the story's ending. You start feeling the effects of your actions by the second choice, as what Virgo goes through changes substantially with each path. In one path, you might be presented with a boss fight that just doesn't exist in another. For Munana's first game, this level of layered storytelling is jaw-dropping, to say the least. These feats are even more commendable when considering their approach to endings and the ending of Virgo vs. the Zodiacs. What I love about their ending approach is that there isn't a true ending in this game. The game goes to great lengths to make sure your story doesn't get invalidated with the wider knowledge that there is a canon or correct ending to strive for. The player's ending is the canon ending for all intents and purposes. Before I continue with the video, I need to give a spoiler warning as the bulk of this video will be discussing the endings and my interpretations. If you don't want to be spoiled, play the game and come back. I highly recommend it. You've been warned. Virgo vs. the Zodiac has poetic endings tied to the end of the universe. I crave these moments in video games. I relished in the isolation and peaceful solitude that Tenderfoot Tactics presented to me as I drifted through the remaining islands of the world, the all-consuming hive-minded fog assimilating everything else your goblins once held to. I felt wonder and solace while taking an elevator ride down to the Siofra riverbed in Elden Ring, a testament to the beauty that can be found in a forgotten and bygone age. We are the remaining few allowed to witness the end, and there is an end. It is the greatest struggle, a struggle against the foundations of the universe and its descent into nothing, and as players, we stand against that. Virgo vs. the Zodiac has endings that reflect this cosmic defiance both internally and externally. What the game has to say about endings is that sometimes the world needs to end for something new to begin, and we should be okay with that. The stakes are also laid out and drastic, At the forefront, Virgo needs to fight or bribe or steal the crowns of the 11 other Zodiacs in an effort to combine their power and bring back her golden age. In the background, she's attempting to do this while the Milky Way is in the process of getting snuffed out by a black hole. What's worse is that in one of the endings, it's revealed that they've gone past the event horizon of said black hole, and their world is held together through the sheer audacity of the Zodiacs and the everlasting presence of their memories. They are already cosmic dust, echoes in space reliving Virgo's adventures over and over and over again. Playing through the game with this knowledge illuminates just how self-centered and hollow Virgo's goal is in the grand scheme of things. What is the point of ruling over the remnants of a decaying cosmos? What will the old gods rule if not astral dust and void? The Zodiac of note keeping the world afloat is Gemini, the leader of the Indexers and a supposed ally of Virgo. She's the opening narrator of the story and aids Virgo on her quest by giving her the combat and menu displays you have in-game, and access to the save and load dinosaurs by which you retain and continue your progress. And what you discover in my preferred path is the desire Gemini has, and one with serious moral implications. She wants to escape the black hole and prolong their existence, and she's willing to restart their universe over and over again until she gets the ending she wants. I love this. I love this motivation and the insidiousness behind it. I love the fact that it's an optional facet of the story for you to discover. The revelations of this middle path has the most organic growth, I'd argue, for Virgo on her quest for purity.
The bad path is understandably myopic. Virgo remains single-minded on her quest, dismissing the forest for the trees, and succeeds in bringing back the Golden Age. It comes at the cost of her one beloved Pisces, and causes Virgo to sink into delusion that her lover is somewhere in the Milky Way instead of having fallen at Scorpio's hand. It's tragic but artificial. Virgo is a zealot, but she's been shown in the story to be observant of her surroundings. To sink this low just doesn't sit right with her character. On the opposite end, we have the archetypically good path, where everyone ends up happy. It's saccharine and indulgent, with Virgo's character taking a hard swerve from understanding zealot to compassionate leader. Moreover, it's a fluke of an ending, a result that Gemini's constant meddling with the space-time continuum eventually pulled to get a result that she wanted. Her simulations of Virgo's behavior consider this ending atypical, and I do as well. The way information is fragmented across the three paths is awesome, because now you're messing with perspectives contingent on what kind of info you have. If you'd played through only the happy ending, you'd never have known that this was an atypical, aberrant result. That the universe had to be reset, lives snuffed out over and over and over again, just so we could get one ending where the universe continues to exist. It's a prolonging of the inevitable, a linking of the first flame, a temporary reprieve. The black sun is still out there, and the universe will succumb to entropy as all things do. But you've achieved your Pyrrhic victory, and dawned a new age of independence for the people of the Milky Way. So that's good, right?
Would you choose to restart the world ad infinitum, the people of the world suffering over and over again for the sake of saving it, or would you let things end to let something new take shape? This is the overarching question the narrative presents the player as they decide which path to follow. In the fixed ending, Virgo decides that the world would be better off regressing to an earlier mode of governance for the sake of an idealized order. From a thematic sense, this ending encapsulates a kind of Virgo that yearns for a nostalgic past. There's no restructuring that needs to be done because the current change in authority with the Zodiac age is what caused all the problems in the Milky Way to begin with. From her perspective, anyway. Never mind that the Age of the Rulers was a similarly authoritarian and despotic hellscape. No, it is because she believes it's her birthright, and cares more about this fate for herself than the fates of the Milky Way denizens that I categorize this Virgo as bad. In the cardinal ending, Virgo realizes that current governing institutions need to change, and she achieves this goal by eliminating the hierarchy between Zodiacs and citizens. A good and revolutionary gesture if the action had any bite when comparing the powers of the Zodiacs to the regular denizens of the Milky Way. There are no assurances that the hierarchy won't come back, and depending on the Zodiac in question, like Capricorn or Cancer, the suffering of these citizens will continue. The two other endings leave Virgo in the dark. This mutable ending is canon to Virgo because this is the choice she'd have made if Gemini's actions in the background were wholly revealed to her. Ultimately, this is Virgo's journey, and she doesn't understand the gravity of the situation unless you, the player, pursue this path. Virgo never had an informed say on playing hero or villain to the cosmos until the last moment when those options were made available to her. Her agency was taken. The decision she comes to is a perfect encapsulation to the wider themes of change and loss that this game deals with. Virgo comes to understand that the end of the world does not mean an end to all life, but an end to theirs. The universe functions in cycles and archetypes, and there will be new life to take their place given time. The Golden Age came to an end when the Zodiacs took over, and their age must come to an end for something new to flourish. She learns to let go. She lets go of the toxic convictions that saw her sacrifice her friends for some idealized, blinding truth. She accepts that they're not even real anymore, just echoes of a world now lost to entropy that needs to lie down and rest. There's a real strength there. She doesn't lack hope that things can be better. She is resolute in believing that something new and hopefully something better will take their place once they're gone. And so she confronts Gemini at this final precipice. Gemini believes that an answer can be achieved to propel them out of the black sun and bring them back from cosmic dust. The resetting of the universe over and over, the suffering of its people, is a small price to pay for the luxury of a prolonged existence. Gemini is driven by a fundamental fear of non-existence. She cannot face the void, and in this weakness she doomed the Milky Way to repeat its suffering over and over again for what she has calculated as a chance towards continued existence. Any other benefits are secondary. Any good ends that come for the Milky Way citizens are tangential. It's all about Gemini surviving death. Even her help is conditional. Gemini has helped you at this point, sending the save and load dinosaurs your way and providing you with your combat heads-up display under the assumption that you are the only one who could bring the crowns together and provide the power necessary to bring the Milky Way back from the brink. And every time you failed to do so was no skin off her teeth. All she had to do was reset the universe and you'd be back at it again until you made the right decision. Biting the hand that feeds you causes her to take away your HUD, and the fight you have with her is the hardest in the game. It makes narrative sense that this is the hardest fight in the game, not just because of the UI elements disappearing, but because Gemini is the only other Zodiac character actively pursuing her conviction, and she's fighting tooth and nail to be victorious, just like you. Some could argue that Virgo is a villain here, trying to let the universe end, but I wholly disagree. It's thematically and narratively consistent for Virgo to see the end of the world as the most virtuous option. She's devout to Mercury, her bird-faced progenitor, and the individual that asks her to consider ending the world. That prolonging the inevitable is causing great pain to the dormant gods and stressing the fabric of reality in its pursuit of the law of cycles. Virgo goes so far as to listen to her sister's thoughts on the matter, asking how many times Gemini has reset the world and to what ends, only for Gemini to scoff at the notion that they should even care about such a concept. If she has the power to reset the world to her whims, then what are consequences to her? She cannot be held accountable to her actions, and her dismissal of Virgo and the suffering of the Milky Way denizens is clear. She even goads Virgo by telling her they can reset the world to bring Pisces back from the dead, and Virgo declines such an offer, disgusted that Gemini would try to manipulate her with the chance to reunite with her dead lover. Virgo has come to the point that she understands her lover was suffering under the weight of this hive-minded virus in the game, and to reset the world over again would mean opening her up to that mental anguish. Virgo has grown beyond personal goals at this point. The stakes are so much more than establishing an old or new world order in the Milky Way. I can be reasonably convinced that pursuing the cardinal ending is preferable to the end of the world as we know it, but that ending doesn't contain the same level of gravitas as Virgo purposefully choosing to let her world rest. I love that I'm still mulling over my decisions to this extent, that the poignant moments of the story have stuck with me long after I've beaten the game. But I guess that's what the game means by immutable memories transcending their place in the universe. I meant what I said earlier in the program about how each ending is canon for the player.
Each path takes you through a good time, and although I've gushed about my ending preferences, don't let that dissuade you from yours. I just feel that there is this fundamental difference between playing as yourself versus playing as a character in the world. It's a different experience considering the behaviors and motivations of the character you inhabit and selecting an option that's in line with their perspective. It's this immersion that made me fall in love with Virgo. She genuinely cares about her inner circle and cares about making her bird god dad proud and being in control of her own decisions. She can't do that in the bad or good path because she doesn't have the stakes. The moment she does is the moment she decides to end things. And why wouldn't she? Indecision might move a player to try one of the other paths, but once you know the machinations in the background, your adventure is tainted. It's a forbidden fruit bitten. We know everyone will continue to suffer while you hesitate. So don't. Make your choice and have the resolve to lie with it. I can't stress how much I want you to play this game. Munana's knack for storytelling, Anglerman's flair, Electro Bear's groovy music, and the overall kinetic combat are stellar for what is a tiny studio in Brazil. I love their work here, and in Osteoblasts, which is more dungeon crawler than full-on RPG, I know that I'm going to love their work in Keylocker as well. This dystopian cyberpunk dripping game where your character is a musician in a universe where music is banned. I'm following along with their updates on the Keylocker Kickstarter page and their Discord, patiently waiting for the game to come out. I highly encourage you to give them your support. They deserve all the attention and goodwill from their efforts lovingly put into these games. This has been Mr. Staleman on Endings, Entropy, and the Love in Between, logging off.